Hi, guys. Super welcome to you to the Wealth Rebel Show. I am your resident Wealth Rebel, Emma Wright, and I just want to remind you before we dive into today's show that every single episode is shared on all podcast platforms and now on my brand new YouTube channel so that you can also watch video content too. So if you are watching on YouTube and want to pop me in your earbuds, for higher quality experience, then head to the links below and go down to the podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube and you want some inspiration, you want to make love to your life each and every day with even more YouTube content, go to the show notes below and hit the channel. Now, the Wealth Rebel Show is all about shining a light on amazing people that are game changers, that embody everything that being a wealth rebel stands for. And today's guest fully embodies all four wealth rebel pillars without a shadow of a doubt. Now, I'm not just saying this because he lives in Leeds and is like from me, Yorkshire. I do not suffer from bias at all. I promise you this. This show is all about creating a ripple effect, and it isn't about attracting amazing celebrity guests onto the show. It's about attracting people that genuinely believe in holistic wealth and putting the planet first and investing for good and doing our part to make a difference in solving the problems that the world actually faces. And therefore, it's about creating an audience for founders and guests that come on so that we can help them share their magic, sprinkle their stardust, and ignite that universal impact worldwide. Okay? So please like, subscribe, follow, review, leave a comment. It means the world to the people that come on the show because that's what it's all about. So the very first guest that I am going to be putting into the wealth pillar is Franco Demori. Now, Franco found me through my beautiful friend when I believe you were on a retreat, right? Last November, I think you said it was. And you wanted to connect with someone that is all about wealth on a holistic basis. So through our beautiful friend Rachel, who said you need to speak to Emma. And that is, I mean, wow, that's how the universe works. So Franco reached out to me on Instagram, and last week you interviewed me on your show, which was just absolutely beautiful. And now, through the power of, whatever we call it, giving back to the world, you're on my show. And I just feel amazingly blessed to have you here. Like, everything that you stand for, in my opinion, aligns with the wealth pillar because you support amazing CEOs to step into their leadership power. You are empowering leaders through those senior roles to do the inner work and getting more people to look at wealth on their holistic basis. So I can't wait to dive into this topic with you today, Franco, on an even deeper level and learn what it takes to be the soul leadership coach. So firstly, Franco, welcome to the Wealth Rebel Show. I can't believe I'm saying that. The Wealth Rebel Show.
Fantastic. Well, what a wonderful introduction. Well, I feel a bit starstruck. I don't really know what to say now, but seriously, that was a really beautiful introduction. Thank you. Excuse me. And as you were speaking there, I was thinking, yeah, isn't it weird? Weird, not weird, how I've gone from not having a clue who you were it was actually just 5 months ago. It was in the middle of March. And I'd gone to Lagos in South Portugal. And I did do it. It wasn't actually a retreat, but I did do some retreaty experiences while I was there, and it was a bit of a reconnaissance trip. And as you mentioned, our wonderful mutual friend Rachel Fennessy introduced me to you because I was like, I really need to understand the money side of wealth and abundance, but I need to connect with someone who's like really bridges both of those worlds, the spiritual element and the actual financial element. So because Rachel's in financial services, I was like, she'd be a great person to ask. She introduced me to you. I listened to some of your interviews and I thought, wow, I really love this girl and what she's doing and her energy. I felt so much resonance to everything that you were saying and sharing. And again, bridging those worlds so beautifully. But I have to admit, I never imagined I'd actually be on your podcast. So yeah, thank you ever so much for the invitation. And it really is an honor to be here.
Oh, you're so welcome. And likewise, like this is what the world is. The universe kind of just flows in those magical ways. And you're so right about the fact that money, the connection of money into abundance for me is such an important topic. We could do a whole topic on this because people think that money is abundance, and it's not. Money is just an energy exchange. Abundance for me is a vibration, like wealth is a vibration. And the
Yeah.
spiritual connection is essential. It's essential. And it absolutely 100% bridges the gap that people have missing. So our worlds were going to collide. It was meant to be. The universe had it planned. Rachel was someone that I met years ago that I think believe that, you know, we're all on this kind of awakening journey at the minute, and we're waking up to the fact that it isn't what we were led to believe. So let's get deep. Let's get dirty into this topic of wealth. Firstly, I really want to understand a little bit more about what is a soul leadership coach. What is a soul leadership coach to you?
I'm not even sure I know myself, to be honest with you, but it's one of those things, Emma, where I was like, yeah, looking at all these job titles, and I was like, yeah, boring, 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 boring. And I just thought, like, what's something that really describes who I am and what I do and how I show up? And as always, because we learn to trust our wisdom and connect with the infinite ingenuity that's in here. And it just came out one day, the Soul Leadership CEO or the Soul Leadership Coach. And I was like, wow. And as I felt into it, what I realized it meant was that, we live in a world where there's so much opportunity available to us that probably wasn't even available when I started my corporate career in the late 20s. Late 20s, I'm not that old. No, in my sort of mid late 20s, in the late 90s, I should say. And because we can do business at the touch of a button globally in a way that wasn't even possible in 1997 when I started my corporate career. And yet people are more overwhelmed, stressed out, frustrated, struggling with imposter syndrome, fear, anxiety, feeling isolated, and all those other things than ever before. And that to me is insanity. So I decided after a huge journey of discovery and loads of car crashes and dead ends and stuff, I realized that what's really missing, and having been a business owner several times, and one company in particular that I co-founded with a good friend of mine, and we had like 10 staff at one point. Looking back on that, what I realized was missing was a connection with self. Because when I started way back in 97, there was very much a strong demarcation between this is your work self, this is your corporate self, and that's your personal self. And never the two shall meet. And so you kind of I ended up, and a lot of the guys that I worked with just ended up like being caricatures and parodies of ourselves, pretending to be this like corporate nonsense, this stereotype, this ego image that we thought, or we were trained and told had to show up in a certain way. But to cut a long story short, what it did was it was just completely and utterly closed my heart off, and it closed off my connection to myself. It closed off my ability to connect with others, particularly in business, in terms of relationship building as well. And that actually eventually led to a huge meltdown, more than once, and a couple of near-death experiences. Um, and I realized that what was missing was that connection to self element. And so the soul leadership coach is really exactly what it is. It is. We thankfully are birthing into a new world where I think, especially since the thing that happened in 2020, where we were all told we had to lock ourselves in our houses and not come out because of something that was going around, and I won't mention it here because of censorship, but I'm sure everybody watching can guess what I'm pointing to. But what that did was it woke so many people up to what's important in life, because so many people were locked in their houses, either with partners trying to work from home, and it made people take stock of their lives and realize that actually there's so much more to life than just being this business caricature. And there's nothing wrong with, I mean, I'm all for really successful, impactful business because that's what makes the world go round when it's done ethically and from the heart. But what that time period did was really open people up to the fact that if we lead from our hearts, what I call leading from the soul, then we create so much more wealth, so much more abundance, so much more prosperity, so much more opportunity, revenue, profit. We love what we do again. We reignite the passion for what we do. Our relationships are transformed inside and out. And it's just this beautiful, ever increasing circle of joy and goodness and success and so on and so on. And there's really no downsides to it, which is the amazing thing. So I know I've rambled on a bit there, but as you can tell, I'm so passionate about this, about, the one thing that's what a lot of people don't see in the world of business in particular is that there are two elements. It's like there's the human operating system, and then there's the business operating system. Now, within the business operating system are essential things like sales skills, marketing skills, continued professional development, IT skills, and so on and so on and so on. Those things are really, really important. But what has to underpin that is a really bang up to date, fully operational, super duper brilliant human operating system. And that's what being in soul leadership is all about, because that's the thing that contains all the necessary skills that really amplifies and leverages them and makes them fun and creates so much success financially, emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise as well. So I hope that answers the question.
The first question that's coming to me that there's so much that I want to reflect on, but I have to just ask this question straight away. Why do people fear their heart and soul?
Oh gosh, this is going to turn into a 6 hour podcast. Fundamentally, it's because it's been how we've been conditioned. We live in a world where even in the third trimester, as you know, anyone who's followed the work of the amazing Bruce Lipton, even in the third trimester of pregnancy, before we've come out into the world, we're picking up on what's around us. And a lot of the time, that's fear, anxiety, lack, limitation, parents often arguing with each other. That is going straight into our human operating system and programming us on an emotional, DNA, and energetic level. And then we get out into the world. And I've always noticed this really strange thing, I'm aware. Like when a kid's learning to walk and it gets up for the first time and like it falls down and everyone's clapping and cheering and celebrating. Well done, get back up, get back up, get back up, get back up. And what we do is we nurture failure from that earliest age. But very quickly after that, and I think it even starts in nursery. I mean, I don't have children, but certainly lots of conversation over the years with friends who do have young kids. It even starts in nursery, where you've gone from that encouraging failure, because what's failure ultimately? It's nothing more than information about what doesn't work for whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So that's why we tell our kids, get up again. Well done. We clap and we cheer. Same when we're learning to speak as well. But then very quickly we get into school. Then we get into, I mean, I'm old school. I still call it infant school, junior school, and secondary school. So for the younger people watching this, basically from the age of 5 to 18. And in that process, we have to use a ruler to draw a line, otherwise we get into trouble. That was always one of my big bugbears. I got detention a few times for not using a ruler, because I just didn't see the point of it. But we get told to fear consequences. We have to be told to fit in. Our innate, incredible, amazing human ingenuity is crushed from the earliest age because we have to fit into a box. And the reason for that is because the education system is designed to produce labor, factory workers, whether it's management or production line workers. It's not designed to create entrepreneurial thinking and leadership where people can think for themselves. We get that from our parents. We watch the news, and on and on and on it goes. So by the time we're even 10, 11, 12 years old, that fear of shining, that fear of coming from the heart is is really kicked out of us. And that was certainly my experience growing up until I sort of went full circle with it all much later on in life. But I really do believe that actually inherently and innately, every single one of us is full of that magic from even before we're born. But that's what happens to us. And that's why that fear occurs.
100% agree. We are born magical beings. Like we are spiritual beings having a human experience. If we're going to go super spiritual, right? And then from the moment we're born, even like you say, from before we're born, we're being conditioned. And sadly, the human conditioning over many, many generations, many lifetimes, whatever you believe, is that we, you know, we're in this fear-based society and fear keeps us stuck. Whether you believe in the conspiracy theories or whether you just see it as like this unconscious bias that we're just naturally born with, we fear. And therefore, and I really believe that we fear our heart. And whether you're a man or a woman, we fear using our heart because we have this toxic masculinity of doing. We have to do this stuff because if we don't, we're not going to fit in. We fear consequences. And we're in the yang energy so much, and we're not in the feminine energy. Every single human, whether you're a man or a woman, is 50% masculine, 50% feminine. We all have this in us. We're just born then with gender so that we can procreate, right? And we fear our hearts. We fear our hearts because we're so terrified of getting heartbroken. And this is this conditioning over time. So we fear using our hearts as men and women. And then we fear we don't even see the soul because the soul lives behind the heart, right?
Yeah, it really does. But you know, the funny thing is, Emma, that everybody listening to this who can relate to what you've just said will be able to relate to moments in their lives, whether it's been professionally or in their personal lives, where that heart soul essence has come out and they've had glimpses of it and they've felt it. And sometimes people will sit with it and feel it and love it and be happy with it. And sometimes they'll push it straight down. But the point I'm trying to make is it never goes away. It's a bit like nobody ever has sun anxiety. I mean, certainly in the UK, and I know, like, I'm originally from the Seychelles, which is a tropical paradise, but you wouldn't believe that people in the Seychelles moan about the weather straight up. And even though as humanity we tend to moan about the weather, we never have sun anxiety. And what that means is no matter how cloudy it is, no matter how rainy it is, we know that the sun is still there behind the clouds. And if we just like when we're done carping and moaning about it, the inclement weather will eventually pass. Hey, sunshine, everybody's happy again. Well, the human spirit is exactly the same. So, to use the metaphor, what the rain clouds are in our human experience is feeling sad, feeling upset, feeling not good enough, feeling anxiety, depression, and so on and so on. But what we forget and what we've been conditioned to forget is that that magic, that sunshine is always there behind us. And people, especially when they're walking the dog at night, taking a shower in the morning, or particularly being sat on a beach on holiday, reconnect to that magic when the thinking slows down. So it's always, always, always there. But we've been conditioned, you're absolutely right, to fear it because without sort of getting too deep into the conspiracy conversation, is that we are conditioned to live in our intellect because then it's easier to control people en masse when they're living in their intellectual minds, more disconnected from their hearts. But nonetheless, that connection is still always there, and therein lies the clue to the magic.
What you've just said really, again, really, really hit a chord because you said it never goes away. And this is the thing. A lot of the time, it's trying to push through. The soul is really going, listen to me, listen. You need to listen to me. This is not what you're here to do. This is not who you came here to be. When are you going to listen to me? And it really gets louder and louder. the more you don't listen to it. And that's when you go through life and you fall in those holes and you're like, why does the universe keep putting me in holes? Why do I keep feeling this pain? Why is life so hard? Why does it feel like sticky mud? It's because you're not listening to your soul. And it's like in those moments of, you know, glimmer where the soul comes through when you slow down your mind. And I love what you just said about the connection between feelings, thoughts, and anxiety. Like the thoughts that we have, thoughts are just a record of the past, right? We know our brain stores beliefs, then we have all of these thoughts every single day, most of them unconscious, and that triggers the body to have the feelings. So the first sense of that you're having a thought is the fact that you're feeling. You might not even know where it's coming from, the sadness that you're feeling or the anger that you're feeling. That is your thoughts triggering your emotional body. And then we project those thoughts into what we think is going to be a future outcome. And that's anxiety, a fear of something that hasn't even happened. And then when you have that glimmer of your soul, it's when you get fully present in the moment, because soul is fully present. Soul just is. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Soul just is, right? Soul is fully in the present moment. And that's like when you're on that beach and the sun is on your body and you're just in that moment, you like your soul starts speaking, and that's when those glimmers happen, and it gets stronger and stronger as you get through your life, I think. And that's when people suddenly realize that they need to explore some of those things that they've kind of been pushing down and not listening. You know, they've been really egoic, they've been going after that corporate nonsense, and they realize suddenly, what the flip, I could have used a different word there, what the flip is my life about? You know, I'm in this corporate job, you know, I've been doing everything that I got told to do, I've been climbing the ladder, and I still don't feel fulfilled. I don't know why I'm here, I don't know what it's all about. And you know, it can lead to meltdowns, right? You know, like, thank you so much for sharing your story, because I think that fact that you shared that is really resonant. You know, we're closed off to our heart and soul, and it's not our fault. Firstly, let's just accept that this isn't our fault. Firstly, one of the biggest things is acceptance of the fact that when we're going through life and we've got all of this anxiety, all of these feelings, the glimmer of hope, we know that something's not right. Firstly, it's not our fault because we've been conditioned to be like this, first and foremost. But we don't have to accept that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. And I think I love what you were sharing there about realizing that we get so far down the path, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder, or we've started a business and we've actually just created a massive job times 10 for ourselves, and we think, maybe this isn't right after all. But we still keep pushing. And it is so important to highlight this, because this is what happened to me, basically, because I refused to listen to the whispers. And I had a couple of near-death experiences around about my 30th birthday. I had another meltdown when I was about 35, an emotional one, for similar reasons, because I just wasn't listening to what my heart was telling me. I just kept trying to bury it. And the way you can tell is that when something's genuine, because I often get asked this, well, how do I know what's an insight, and how do I know what's a good idea? And it's a great question, but it's a really simple answer, but a very powerful one, is that it comes from the heart first, and then you feel it flow up into your mind, as opposed to it being an idea and then you try and convince yourself the other way around. You try and whip it down into your heart space and like, yeah, this is a good idea. Come on, motivation. Which, you know, in tiny little doses that can work, but it's kind of inauthentic, really. But when you come from that place of inspiration where it comes from the heart and your whole body's flooded with, oh, wow. And then that flows up into your mind and then becomes inspired action, which is action that's led from the heart. Because again, looking at the research that people like Bruce Lipton have done, and Greg Braden's talked about this a lot as well, as have many other people, was that in recent years they've discovered that the heart has something like 40 to 60,000 um oh, I wish I could remember the technical term, but basically its own brain intelligence. And they also found that 70 to 80% of the communication goes from the heart to the brain and not the other way around. So that the brain is actually the servant of the heart. And we've been conditioned to think it's actually, again, intentionally, to think that it's the other way around. So just imagine a world then where everybody's living from the heart and they're coming from that place of inspiration. And I really want to emphasize it doesn't mean we just sit around meditating all day doing nothing. We can do that, but you won't really achieve very much. But it's just, we get it the wrong way around. We push from the head first instead of being led by the energy of the heart. It's like you just get on a surfboard and ride a wave. I mean, I've had, for example, one of my clients from about a couple of years ago came in just absolutely like I could just see the life had drained from his face because he'd been pushing so hard. He was the chief exec of an up and coming business. And one coaching session, we had this conversation in a lot more depth about actually connecting from the heart, leading from the heart. The next day, I get an email from him saying, I've just done a 14-hour day and I could quite literally work through the night. It feels effortless. I've got so much energy. I've got more done in this last 12 hours than I have in the last 4 or 5 days. And this is what I mean. That should be normal, not the other way round. But really, it's so important to be able to discern the difference between when it comes from the heart and when we're trying to push with our head.
Oh my goodness. Firstly, thank you for sharing that incredible knowledge and research from Bruce Lipton about the connection. Because I tried to talk about that the other day because I was like, I hear these things and it comes into my channel. Sometimes I don't know where all this knowledge is coming from. And I was like, there's this research about the brain and the heart. And knowing the brain has one job, and we give the brain more power than we should in controlling our life. The brain has one job: to keep you safe. That's why it looks for threats and rewards. That's why it's got a fight, flight, and freeze system. So we're going through life literally living from our minds and going every day, because we're 95% unconscious if you're plugged into the matrix and you haven't woken up and you haven't realized that you have a consciousness, a soul, and a heart, and you should be living by your soul and your heart, not by your mind. Going through life going, is it a threat or a reward? Is it a threat or a reward? And that's why we're in anxiety. That's why we're getting disease. That's why all of these new age things are happening for us. And we're thinking that life is happening to us, not for us. And we're not in the way that we should be living life. We shouldn't be being controlled by the brain, because the biggest brain really is the heart. And then behind the heart is the soul. So thank you for so eloquently explaining the research and the science nerdy stuff that I love to just get into, because this is science, this is real. This isn't just, we think of spirituality as woo woo. This is not woo woo. The science is showing us that this is real. And the sooner that we accept the real aspect of all of these things, the sooner that we can step into the power of the magical beings that we are, actually spiritual beings having this human experience, the better. It's really exciting. Actually, it's really empowering, and it's not to be fearful of. But what you said is so true about the fact that people don't trust themselves fundamentally, right? They like, well, how do I know if it's my heart? How do I know those whispers, I should follow them? And this goes into, if it's coming from your gut, if it's coming from your sacral, from down in that part of you. And I think of Shakti Ma is like stirring within you, and you're getting, often we mistake that as being, and I'm gonna get a little bit rude here, because it's really it connects to feeling horny. If you're feeling horny, if you're feeling Shakti Ma stirring within you, that is a sure sign that your creative energy, because that's feminine, this all comes from a feminine part of you, is stirring for you to do something. And then when you release that and it flows up through your body and it comes into Shiva. Shiva's the divine masculine god, right? It comes into Shiva and it comes into the part where you go, right, I need to take inspired action. And you're so right. You're so right. People think that being spiritual is about sitting and meditating. Yes, we can have moments where we will sit and meditate and we go inwards and we do meditation, but we need to turn our life into a walking meditation where we are literally being guided from our heart. We're feeling that flow and we're being creative, and then we're putting it into inspired action. And the more that you start doing this, you will start to realize the synchronicities. You'll start attracting, because a big sign that you're not in flow is that you're pushing that boulder. If you are pushing, you're not authentic. You're not being a leader if you're pushing this comes back to what you do, right? As a leadership coach, if you're having to push people up a hill and you're having to whip them, go on up the hill, get out there, targets, 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 or you're dangling a carrot, right? Because if you do this, I'm going to give you a bonus, or the things that the old way of doing it, you're doing it from status, or you're climbing that ladder and you're pulling yourself up. That's the first sign that, in this new world, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to work, because people do not want to be pushed up a hill. And leaders, real leaders, people that came here to lead, don't want to be dragging that boulder up that hill. They want to be walking up that hill with that inspired action, and the people are following them because they really believe, right? Ah,
Yeah, yeah,
so much,
so
so much to unpick there, right? It's what you said. And I just love it. I
so
just love
true.
it. Let's just dive deeper into this. When we're thinking of riding that wave, you know, when we're thinking of diving more into soul, how do you get people, because people come to you because they think they should be doing something. How do you get people to start seeing what's really going on for
Yeah,
themselves?
what a great question, Emma. Now, earlier on in the conversation, I highlighted the difference between the human operating system and the business operating system, if you like, where we have all kinds of skills training that we need. Now, in some instances, it's actually the skill side that people need. A great example is I had a potential client come to me in 2019, and she came to me via an existing client of mine. I think she'd seen a comment that he'd put on one of my LinkedIn posts, seen my profile and stuff, and contacted me. We'd had an intro conversation, and in the sort of brief questionnaire before the actual conversation, the usual questions: what are you trying to achieve? What have you tried? What attracted you to having a conversation with me? And so on and so on. Fill this thing out. And about 15 minutes into the conversation, I was like, you've really got everything sorted. I said, I don't actually, I said, I don't understand what I can do to help you, because in terms of her inside world, she pretty much had everything there, good energy, good vibe, connected to all elements of her energy. And so what it turned out she needed was actually some very specific business development training for her industry. Now, it turned out that one of my really good friends was in the same industry and had done the same. So I put them together, and it turned out that that's what she needed. And it was a resounding success for her. So sometimes, actually, it is just the skills things that we need. But often people come to me when they're like really on the edge in terms of anxiety, stress, pressure, overwhelmed, don't know what to do. And there's a wonderful example of a guy that came to me, and he knew that I'd done a lot of presenting at board level, and I'd done a lot of big group presenting, and he said, like, I basically need some speaker training and some presentation training. And I could sense straight away that that's not what he needed. But I was like, okay, yeah, so tell me about what's going on. So he told me, and so on and so on. And I'm like, this guy, I can tell his energy's great. He knows his industry knowledge was exceptional. He knew all the data inside out, back to front. I'd actually done a bit of research on him beforehand, and I was like, yeah, he's a really good communicator. I was like, you don't actually need presentation training. So I said, tell me on a deeper level what's going on. So basically, turned out that really what was going on he didn't just have a fear of public speaking, he had a terror of public speaking. And of course, where did that come from? It came from a disconnection from his own soul, from his own heart, from his heart soul essence. And it was just creating this huge tornado of fear about what would happen. And he was so in his head about it that actually, and I believe him, he said he would have run out of the room halfway through it and not come back. And it was a really big deal, this presentation that he was both comparing and doing a couple of key presentations in. It was to existing clients, industry bigwigs, and really highbrow potential clients as well. And so bring up that story because it was really important, or I shared those two stories to actually just really highlight the difference between someone who actually really does just need to up their skills, or do something specific in terms of business development training, or someone who actually needs to do the deep inner work. And the way that you tell is simple. As we've always discussed, it's the feeling state. You know, if someone's a nuclear bomb waiting to go off on the inside, then 99 times out of 100, it's because of that disconnection from their inner world. Now, most people, some degree of soul leadership work will be helpful, but for someone like that, and for the people I tend to work with, they come to me when they're in a real state of distress emotionally. But I can see their inherent magic and their inherent capability, but they've just forgotten how to connect with themselves. They've just forgotten who they are. They've just forgotten that the answer to everything that they desire is looking at them every time they look in the mirror. As the Hopi tribe say, you know, you are the light switch, you are the light you've been looking for. And I changed that into you are the light switch that you've been looking for.
It all lies within. Like we all have the knowledge there, and it's tapping into that knowledge. It's tapping into that knowledge, that trust. One thing that I wrote down when you were talking about, you know, your lady that came to you that had the inner kind of knowing, it was a confidence piece, right? I wrote the word confidence down because sometimes without specific knowledge, we lack the confidence to move forwards. So even though we feel like we need the knowledge, and knowledge is really powerful, like we you know, having knowledge and learning is always going to make us stronger. And, you know, just building that knowledge is so powerful. And I love the fact that you are not fearful to for yourself to connect someone to where they can go and get that knowledge, right? I love that. Such a connector of people. Like if I know that I am not the person, I will be like, you need this person. You know, it's like what Rachel did with me and you know, that is, we need to stop fearing connections. We need to stop fearing connecting people to the knowledge that they need, because sometimes people don't do that because they think that they're going to lose that connection, right? I'm going to lose the client. But fundamentally, what you've done there is you have created a ripple effect for them to go and get the knowledge, for them to build the confidence that there is something sometimes missing within ourselves still. And it was the word confidence came into my channels there, right? With your other client, fear. Fear is really low energy. It's really low vibrational energy. And when you are fearful and living in fear, it is always going to stop you from living a life that you love, that you came here to be. And it's just incredible that you can work with people to switch that fear on its head, because what's the opposite of fear?
It's love, of course.
Love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love for self.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wrote
And
that word down, self, at the start. You know, you said this right at the start, self.
yeah, yeah. I love the point you made there about the first story about the lady who came to me. And I was like 15 minutes into the conversation, I was like, right, come on, let's, we don't need to go any further here. What do you really need? That happened. I connected her. She did it. It was a resounding success. But I had no fear. It wasn't like I could have tried to convince her to spend 3 grand with me doing some one-to-one work, or 5 grand or whatever it was. But I was just like, no, like my job is to be in as much service as possible to humanity. And I saw that in that instant, the best thing for that person was to connect her with what she needed. But I had no fear of losing the opportunity or anything, because I know that the universe is abundant and that wealth is not just everywhere, that we are wealth. But you know what's interesting about that story, Emma? 2 years later, it came back to me when she was ready for what I had in terms of how I was able to contribute to the next level of her awareness. And she became a one-to-one client
I'm getting
because she was,
goosebumps.
yeah, she was then at that stage 2 years later. I got a message saying, yeah, yeah, do you remember me from 2 years ago? I was like, yeah, of course I do. He said,
Yeah.
right, we need to have another conversation, but this time it's actually I'm really struggling. So she'd built her business to the next level, and then she was struggling with with her internal world in terms of taking that to where she wanted it to go, and some other things she was having about strategically to open up some new channels as well. And that was an inner world thing. So this is what I mean about the world is abundant. 2 years previously, pointed in the right direction, and the universe brought us straight back around to it. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen every time, but what I'm saying is, when we come from that place of complete and utter prosperity and abundance, and we know that wealth is just an inherent part of who we are, then situations like that happen all the time.
Wealth is a vibration. Wealth is a frequency. Wealth is not physical. It's your frequency. And fundamentally, what you did there is that you your perceptions, your inner not feelings was that she wasn't really ready for you as well, right? Even though she had all of her inner work in place because she didn't need you, she did. She needed to do something different for her to be ready to work with you. And I see this a lot with what I do.
Mm.
Sometimes people aren't ready. They are not ready to be activated into wealth because I always say when you work with me, your life is going to get uncomfortable. You have to be ready to be uncomfortable because being wealth, stepping into that change, you're going to have to make change. You are going to want to make changes that are going to be profound. And, I know that when you work with soul, and I know that this is the case for you, I just feel it coming into my channels. You're activating people to make changes that's going to be uncomfortable because the mind is going to be telling you you can't do that. This is going to be, I'm going to lose my status. I'm going to lose all of these things. One thing that came to me as you were talking was service to others, right? Service to others is a big part of leadership. It's actually just a big part of being a human being. But we're conditioned to fear everyone in society. We have our homes with our big barriers and our doors and our castles and our walls. And we even put energetic walls up as well, right? When we start knocking down our walls and we open ourselves up, right? And we realize when we come into service to others, and as leaders, like as CEOs, right, we're in service to everyone, whether that's our clients, whether that's our staff, and we start kind of being that service giver. People follow you. It's just incredible, right? Let's dive more. What does service to others mean to you? I know what it means to me. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I see it more as contribute. I see it more as contribution, and my contribution is just simply. I was at a networking event in Manchester a few years ago, and it was the same usual. Oh, what do you do? It's like you're not really interested. You're just asking, but anyway. So someone came up to me. There was a group of about half a dozen of us talking, and someone said, "Oh, so what do you do?" From nowhere, and I say nowhere, but it was what we've both said so many times. It was like because I was just in this connection to self, I couldn't even stop the words before they'd come out because they weren't coming from me because my Franco identity, ego mind identity, whatever you want to call it, I kind of just sat down for a minute and my true self pushed out the words that went, I'm a excuse me, I'm an international tour guide and a bomb disposal expert. And you should have seen everyone lean in. Like instantly, I just thought everyone's just going to walk away and just think, who's this crackpot that we've just asked? Everybody leaned in and went, what does that mean? Really? So I was like, well, the thing is, most people are a heart attack, a nervous breakdown, or some kind of chronic illness waiting to go off. There's just like this emotional bomb waiting to explode, whether it's this year, next year, or in 20 years' time, right? Because people are so goddamn stressed out non-stop. People are just like like a pinball on acid, bouncing around from here, there, and everywhere, trying to, trying to make sense of life, trying to make sense of business. And I mean, that is just completely and utterly unsustainable, without something going badly wrong. Because as you said yourself before, Emma, at some point when we stop, our true self, our heart soul awareness, keeps trying to tell us, go in this direction, go in this direction. And if we keep ignoring it, it ends up like me with a couple of near-death experiences, nervous breakdowns, or long-term chronic illness. Because dis-ease is exactly that, is when we become disharmonious and out of ease with the essence of who we truly are. So that was the first bit, was like the bomb disposal expert part, because basically that's really all I do is I just people to diffuse that ticking time bomb that's waiting to go off. And then the international tour guide is that it's more like a cosmic tour guide, in all honesty, because all I'm doing is I'm pointing people back into the heart. Look in there, look in there, look in there. And when I say the bomb disposal part, is it's really important that to emphasize that it looks like the world is happening to us. It's taxes, it's the government, it's my employees, it's my wife, it's my husband, it's my kids, it's the tax man, it's whoever, it's shitty clients, whatever it might be. And I've got all these things coming in on me. So it looks like the world is happening to us. And we can be forgiven for thinking that, because as we've said many times already, we're conditioned to believe that we're a victim to the outside world. But actually, it looks like that's what's going on, because there is stuff out there going on in the world that we think is happening to us. However, it's actually the other way around. And this is one of the first things I point out to people, is that actually the world isn't happening. It's not to say that there aren't loads of things going on out there. There really are. But we can either choose to be a victim and stand in a tiny fraction of the potential that we have to not just navigate that, but to transcend that and create an amazing outcome. Or we have the option of going, well, hang on a minute, those things are going on out there, and it's actually how I'm perceiving them that's creating my experience of that. And people always say, "Oh, that's nonsense." And I've had a couple of people say this to me before. Well, so you're saying to me like my dad died last week, or my wife died, or my mum died last week. So you're saying to me that that's not that situation. First of all, my deepest condolences. I said, but can I explore that a little bit with you? Yeah, sure. Are you distraught about it 24/7, 365? Like totally out of control, distraught? No, I suppose I'm not. Are there times where you feel sad, quite sort of happy, remembering about the happy times that you had together and so on and so on? Yeah. Are there times where you're quite philosophical and just think, it's death, it happens to all of us? Yeah, I'm sad. Yeah. And then 10 minutes later, do you feel distraught again? Oh, actually, yeah. So you've had this whole range of experiences about someone that you love who's passed away. But the fact is, the fact that they've passed away has not changed. Your experience of how you feel about that has gone from distraught to philosophical to being really grateful for the amazing experiences that you've had with them. And this is what I'm pointing to. It's our perception of those outside circumstances. And one of the best examples that I always use in workshops is anger, right? We've all done it, got really angry. We couldn't send that email. We've said that thing, but especially if we've sent that email and we can't unsend it. Rah, yeah. Yeah, that's told them. 10 minutes later, half an hour later, we've calmed down and we look at that and read that email and we just go, oh God, what did I do? What did I say? I can't believe I just said that. Now, two totally different perceptions. Now, the situation with whoever you're angry at or whatever you're angry at hasn't changed, but your perception of it has changed. And so that is fundamentally core part of my job of contributing to the upliftment of society and the world and helping people to reconnect with their heart soul essence again. It's to help them to realize that actually you're not a victim, you're actually the producer, director, and script writer of your own movie.
Love that.
24/7, 365.
Amen. I love that. Yes, please. Who doesn't want that as well, right? Because
Yeah,
consciousness, people think spirituality is about religion. Let's say it's not about religion. Spirituality is about energy, and it's becoming a master of your emotions so that you can be in charge of how you experience your life.
yeah, absolutely right, Emma. Let me give you another real life example of that. I was
Yes,
working
please.
with this really fabulous lady um, on the senior leadership team of a large global engineering company. And they were doing some joint ventures for about a year and a half with other divisions of the business. Now, she led a big team of people, and she came to me because she'd seen some stuff I'd put up about solving conflict. And she said, yeah, like my team were one of the best in the company. But the guy who's my sort of indirect superior, as it were, he's not, but in terms of these projects, I have to report into him. He's so, well, I won't repeat exactly how she said it, but to put it mildly, she said, he's very difficult. He's this, he's that, he's the other. And if this continues, I'm going to resign. And I don't want to resign because I did love my job in the company up until that point. Okay. Are you open to looking at things a different way? But I am, yeah. That's why I'm talking to you because I don't want to lose. I don't want to have to resign and go and find somewhere else. Okay, so what if I said to you that actually difficult people don't exist? And I stood back, and I got the reaction of like, "What? Oh, well, you did say it. Okay, so tell me more about that." So, long story short, was that it follows on from everything that I've just said. I helped her to see that her experience of this guy, yes, he was being obstructive. Yes, he was being a pain in the backside. Absolutely. There was no getting away from that from what she told me. I said, well, you can be a victim to that, or you can choose to step into more of your heart soul essence, transcend that, and actually see that the reason he's behaving like that is because he's got his own insecurities and fears that's making him show up like that. Doesn't excuse it, but that understanding alone will massively increase your level of rapport, empathy, and compassion for that person. So she did. And in just 3.5 weeks of working together, her team had gone from one of the worst to the best performing team for productivity. Productivity went up 65% in just that 3.5 weeks. And she said, you know what? I'm never going to send him a Christmas card, but I respect him and he respects me. And we
Love that.
actually
I'm
and we
still not going to
actually
send him
get
a
it.
Christmas card, but I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
Victimhood is when being a victim is your biggest excuse in life. Being a
yes,
victim of everything. If you are a victim and really look at, I would really call out people that are listening to the show or watching this on YouTube. Where are you being the victim in your life? Because the victim is we need to flip this victim over, right? Because this is the biggest thing that's holding you back. It really is because it's the fear, it's that vibration that's keeping you stuck. And when you're a victim, guess what you attract? Lots of people that are going to come and get you because you're a victim, because that's how energy works. You attract from that place of energetic frequency. So if your life is feeling crap, if you're in that victimhood and you just it just feels really hard, you're attracting it in. Sorry.
yeah. It's absolutely right because what people fail to realize, and I get this towards the end, I share this towards the end of client engagements, is that it's like, do you realize how powerful you are? You're an immortal, infinite creator being. And by the time I've gone through the human operating system understanding, people then get a sense of just how true that is. Because there is a ton of peer-reviewed research out there now to show that actually these human vessels are what's called a transceiver. We're transmitting and therefore receiving at the same time frequency
Hmm.
Everything is energy.
Yeah.
Everything is frequency. So exactly as you've just said, Emma, if that's what you're projecting into the world, universe goes, oh, there's someone who wants narcissism. There's someone who wants victimhood. There's someone who wants difficulty. Yep, coming right up. The universe doesn't care. Not bothered. Doesn't judge. If that's what you're projecting, that's what it'll give you. However, if you sort your it out, do the deep inner work, and it's tough and it's hard. And I'm not
Yes.
sitting here preaching to people because I have done the deep inner work. If you knew the trauma that I've had to undo, then, maybe that's a conversation for another time. But I really do walk my talk, and I do it on an ongoing basis as well, because you don't just do it and then it stops, because there's always a deeper and more expansive level that you can go to with
It's
it
like
as
the
well.
onion, isn't it?
Yeah,
You peel a
absolutely.
layer off the onion, you think, yes, and you feel lighter. Like when you do it, you feel lighter and synchronicities come in. You realize, I'm attracting things in. Where did that come from? Oh my God, where did that opportunity come on? And when you notice, you start to get a bit freaked out, but then something will happen again because your soul is ready for another layer of your onion to come off. And it'll be like,
Yeah,
I thought I'd sorted this out, mofo universe, right? And you'll be like, pissed off at the universe because you're like, okay, I am this powerful being. I'm creating my universe. Why is this shut up? Because you're ready for another layer to come off. The universe
yeah,
knows when you're ready for that next level. And you have to go through this. And it's a never ending cycle of layers. Okay. Because the more you go up, it's going to go higher, higher. Your frequency is going to go up. Your life experiences are going to get better. The people that are around you are going to get better. The relationships are going to get better. The work's going to get better. You're going to be in love, 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 enlightenment. Everything's just going to get better. How do I know? I'm experiencing it in my own life. And I really have experienced that onion coming off because it's not easy. It really hurts. I just want to
yeah.
touch on something you said because you like shared so many amazing nuggets, and I know we're coming really closely to the end here, and try and keep things not too far beyond the hour so it's not too long for us to be in people's earbuds for. But I think about disease a lot, the disease that we carry, and I love what you said about dis-ease. Let's just like firstly like just honor what you just like said there. I love that. I've never heard it explained like that, and I've heard the concept of disease explained a lot. It's dis-ease. We can have a life of ease, right? I mean, I just want to know more. I mean, when you get into flow and ease, what is that? What is that when you're having that
Yeah,
human experience?
yeah. Well, I would love to take the credit for that, but I actually first got that from Bob Proctor. Bless him. I was a huge fan of Bob, and still has. Some of his teachings are amazing. I mean, he's obviously left his body now, but it just I had the same response. I was like, oh my goodness, and
Can
then
I
I
just say
begun.
something? I know I'm just
Yeah,
interrupting, and I said, maybe
it's
you
okay.
gave Bob Proctor in a different life.
Maybe, yeah. Who knows?
Who
Anything's possible.
knows? We
We
say
live
it's
in a
Bob Proctor, but we know that sometimes in this world I'm your friend, in another world I might be your mum. Just
very true.
saying,
Who
just
knows?
saying.
Who knows? It could well be true. So you're welcome, Bob. Um, one thing I wanted to pick up on was what you just shared there, Emma, about peeling back the layers, and life gets better and better. Relationships, personally, intimately, work-wise, with your kids, with your family, get better, and so on and so on. And all these things expand and expand and expand. You think, oh my goodness, this is great. And then at some point, you'll have another massive crash. And I really want to emphasize that it doesn't suddenly mean that you are exempt from being really stuck in the depths of pain and anguish and despair and whatever it is that you haven't yet alchemized. But the difference is that you actually learn to become okay with not feeling okay. So you don't try and be happy all the time. And because you realize that you're an infinite, immortal spiritual being having a brief human experience, you realize that actually it's a bit like when you sat on a riverbank and you put your toe in the water. You experience the water, but you don't think that you're the river. You're someone experiencing the river. And when we have these enormous implosions, it's the same. We are these beautiful, light, heart, soul essences having a human experience. And even the depths of despair, feeling suicidal, the depths of depression are all experiences, but they're not who we are. But the difference is that the more we continue to do this work and the more we look into ourselves and the more we get let go of attachment to everything, attachment to having to feel good all the time, attachment to having life sorted, attachment to whatever it is, then when we do fall over again, our resilience, our bounce back factor, without trying to make it faster, is automatically faster because we learn to let the equipment do the heavy lifting. We do the inner work, it alchemizes it, and the equipment does the heavy lifting, and we're just there for the ride. You know, like think of your favorite theme park and the scariest ride in your theme park. It's exactly the same. Like I'm going to go to Alton Towers next month with a good friend of mine. Well, hopefully. You
No
know, we're still
way.
little kids.
I
Yeah,
love Alton
we're
Towers.
still
This is not fair. I've been,
we're
can
still
I
little
tell you,
kids.
I can't believe that you're mentioning Alton Towers because literally for the last 20 years, I'm not going to go too much into this, but in my relationship for the last 20 years, I'm like, I want to go to freaking Alton Towers. Why is no one taking me to Alton Towers? A, why is no one taking me? Why did I not take myself?
You've got it.
Right? And that's the thing. When you're waiting for someone to take you on the journey, you're waiting. You don't need to wait for anything in
Yeah.
life.
Such a good
But
point.
what you said there is when we go through this journey and we do the inner work and we peel back those layers and those layers of the onion and we get really deep, we get to know ourselves. It's how you deal with it that
Yeah,
changes.
it really is. And again, just to bring it to life, Matt, like I'm going through this myself at the moment. Like my life is amazing. It really is amazing. Like every box is ticked. And yet for the last 2 weeks or so, I've really been struggling with a deep, deep, deep heaviness
Mhm. Yeah.
about the state of the world, about what's going on, about what am I doing here, what the hell did I choose to incarnate in this nonsense for? And it really has been like wading through treacle nonstop, you know, to the point where sometimes I don't even want to get up in the morning. But instead of letting it consume me
Mhm.
and having it mean something about who I am as an immortal creator being, when you do this work consistently and it becomes an embodied part of who you are, it becomes almost a subconscious, well, a subconscious competence, then instead of getting stuck in it for days and weeks and months on end, you see it for what it is. It's like, oh, I'm just having an experience. Like I was having a deep conversation with someone I'm close to about this just the other day, and bless them, they were trying really hard to help me from a massive place of love, obviously. And I was like, do you know, I don't need to try and make myself feel better. I'm just happy with being where I'm at with it. And when it's ready to pass, it will, as long as I don't try and force it and do anything with it.
Can I
And all
just share
those, oh,
something with you? What
please
you
do.
just said, because on Saturday I had a really dark day, right? I couldn't see out my eyes, and this happens on this spiritual journey. I realized like things come in that need to be seen and felt. And I spoke to my dad on the Sunday, and he said, "Why didn't you phone me?" And I said, "Because I don't need to be okay. I needed to allow myself to feel."
Yeah,
I felt everything and I was alone. I allowed myself to be alone for a period of time. I didn't need to go and see anybody. I didn't need to put myself into someone else's energy because this was for me to experience. I didn't know where it was coming from. I had no idea where all of this energy was coming from, but it was. It happened Saturday, Sunday. I got up, I'd experienced it, and I took myself on a run on the beach. I literally I rebirthed through that moment. And here I am today having this incredible conversation with you. And that is what it's all about. It's and you learn that it's okay to feel the feels because when you go
mm,
into the darkness, you find the light.
yeah. Because old cliche, but you can't have one without the other. There's no day
Yes.
without night.
Mhm.
There's no up without down. I always think the key to being a functioning, amazing adult in this world, albeit that yes, we are these immortal creator beings having an individual human experience, individual but interconnected.
Mhm.
is that I know you've got young children, Emma, they are the best exemplars of what it means to be truly connected to self, because they'll probably be more angry than you and I will be in the next 5 years. But 30 seconds later, 2 minutes later, oh, I've forgotten about what's for dinner, what we're doing next. We've forgotten about what they were angry about.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with kids, is like they're the best salespeople in the world because they will not take no for an answer. They're the most resilient because they don't hang on to things and they haven't learned to hang on to things. And they're the most, as long as they're not hungry, upset, tired, or ill, they're the most joyous, loving beings you can possibly imagine. Why? Because
Yes.
they haven't been contaminated by the conditioning of this world that we live in. And so
Mhm.
our job as adults is to remember that those little kids that we once were, that's still who we are. That's still right here. It's the core essence of what it means to be a beautiful human in this world.
Can I just say what else is coming into me now, right? As you were talking about that is every day I try and be more childlike.
Not
Are you?
childish, not
Yeah.
childish, but childlike.
We're told that we're being childish, right? That is the conditioning. You're being childish. You don't want to, we talked about this before we came on air, right? About what you call yourself felt really boring. I don't want to be boring. My soul did not come here to be boring, right? My soul came here to have a really freaking good time. Okay. And it came here to have a laugh. My spirit animal is a seal. It keeps coming in, the seal, right? And I dived last year at Lundy with the seals and I didn't know why. And it's because my soul was telling me, you're too boring. Stop being boring because I am bored of you being boring. And we're conditioned to feel like if we behave like the child that we were born as, these excited, these inspired, having this eternal love. Everyone used to say to me, why do you love everything? I'm like, I just do. Is that a problem? I
Yeah.
love everything. I love, I love with every ounce of my being. And you will know if I don't love something because I can't hide it. I can't, like Jim Carrey, I can't lie. Literally, don't ask me a question if you don't want the truth because I cannot flipping lie. But this is exactly what you said about the children, when we see children being like that. And Harry and Rose, my babies, right? We will have moments of catastrophic meltdowns at home. And I'm literally within minutes, I need to remind myself because sometimes I get wounded by what they say. And I'm like, just ask Rose for a cuddle. Rose, you want a cuddle? Straight away, she wants a cuddle. That cuddle fixes everything.
Yeah.
Cuddle.
You know,
And then,
it's I
oh,
love that you've said that, Em, because so the same person I was talking to who was trying to help me to get out my funk um at the weekend said to me, like in the world of business, like what is it? Because I was talking about trying to communicate more of this message with high level leaders who are open to it, because I'm not there to try and change anyone's mind. But she said, fundamentally, what is it that you want them to see? I said, I just want them all to just give each other a hug. Just for the CEO, for the MD, for the FD, for the chief operations officer, the marketing director, for all of them in the senior leadership team, to just give each other a big hug, like a really genuine, heartfelt hug, to
what
feel
happens
all
when
their
you
heart
hug?
centers.
Your
Yeah,
hearts touch.
to feel all their heart centers connecting into link, then go and solve your problem. Because again, one of my mentors who does this with Fortune 500 companies doesn't quite go as deep on the love and the hugs and stuff, but certainly the core essence of being in the humanity is that it says the same. And a lot of these like high-powered men and women come and say the same to him. Like they solve problems like a group of kids in a little play group where nobody's putting anyone down. No idea is stupid. Nobody gets talked down to. Everything's possible. Everybody's let go of expectation. Everybody's connected to possibility, and they solve a $100 million problem
Mhm.
in 3 weeks that's taken them 4 years to not solve. That's just one example of many. But fundamentally, it starts here. So it doesn't matter whether it's your relationship with your children. It doesn't matter whether you're the chief exec of a $10 billion corporation. It doesn't matter. Principles are exactly the same.
Ah, well, what place to end. Like, I just feel, wow. Thank you. I literally could cry. What a conversation. Thank you so much. Literally from the
My
bottom of my
pleasure.
heart, sharing all of that with me. I feel so blessed. I'm already in my head meeting you soon at Alton Towers with my podcasting audio where we could do like a live audio stream going around Alton Towers trying these things. I feel
A
like
load of us should make an
we
event of
need
it.
to
Like,
flipping make this happen.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
just
yeah. Me,
saying.
my friend, and a few others, we should make a big event of it.
What an amazing thing that would be. I've
Kids,
got to ask
kids
you the
in
last
kids in
question.
kids in adult bodies, basically,
Yeah, I'm totally owning it, right?
as we've just said.
I'm totally owning it. Like my inner child is a rebel. It's a
Yeah,
creative rebel. It's the wealth rebel, and it's who I am. And I believe that we all have that within us.
absolutely.
What does wealth mean to you?
Oh, have we got another hour?
Yeah,
Um,
what does wealth mean to you? It's like the just the thing that just sets my heart on fire.
being in love with who you are,
Wow.
because from that flows everything else. Because money is an effect of the cause, prosperity is an effect of the cause. And what's the cause? Being in love with yourself, not from an egotistical point of view, but from realizing that you are an immortal, infinite creator being having a brief human experience. And from that, everything else flows.
And it comes back to attachment, right? The big word that I wrote at the top of the, how you deal with it in that attachment. Because we are told that love is outside of us, we go looking for love in everyone else. And then that puts massive pressure on everyone else when actually it's not selfish to love yourself first, because when you truly love you, you don't have attachment to anything, but you attract like a freaking rose. You attract everything in, you magnetize it in, and it starts with loving yourself. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Oh, honestly, I could
Ah,
go on. I could go on for another 2 hours, Emma. But honestly, it's been such a privilege to share this conversation with you. Thank you so much for asking me on, and I really hope that for everybody listening, that there's been some value that you can take away and actually implement to help make your life better, whether it's at home, in your business, or wherever.
some value. I've got to go ground after this because I'm literally flying off the clouds right now. And that's what happens when you come into Soul. You are flying through life, and you do need to ground. We are having a human experience, so I will be grounding after this, definitely. But you can find it, if you're listening to the podcast or you're watching on YouTube, there will be links so you can connect with Franco. Please connect with this beautiful human, this spiritual being having a human experience. And we'll see you at Alton Towers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do it. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Emma.